going on, guys? So this was amazing. Saturday, so today is Tuesday, so this past Saturday, I went off to a catch wrestling seminar, and when I came home, my wife was like, "You need to sit down," and I'm like, "Uh-oh, this is bad." She comes out with a box containing this. My wife bought me a guitar. I really don't know what spurred her onto it, other than the fact that she just loves me, and I'll take it. I will take it. I have been looking at the Firefly guitars for a while now, and probably at least a year. And the thing was that a lot of people were reviewing them as punching well above their weight. So at the time they were like $200 guitars. They're currently about $300 guitars. You know how it is. As soon as people start reviewing things, the price goes up. But the fact is that it's a $300 guitar that plays closer to, say, a $500 guitar. And the cool thing is, when you look at guitars, you have this kind of point of diminishing returns curve. And the $500 mark, maybe $500 to $800 mark, is kind of the knee of that curve, where you start really losing quality per dollar, and it starts getting into the really, really fine stuff that is much harder to quantify and all that. So the thing is that, right, for a long, long time, I've been obsessed with Les Paul style guitars, and the main reason is honestly because, well, probably every amazing guitarist has played one, because they're thick, they're heavy, they're noted for their sustain and their tone and everything. They work really, really well with hard rock and metal, which is definitely more my vein of things. I think Strats and Tullys sound nice. I think they're ugly as fuck. But, it's not really my style. I'm not a great guitarist anyway, but, what it really comes down to is just like, I like hard rock and metal, and something like a Les Paul style guitar really gives that to me. The other thing that I like about the classic Les Paul design is the independent volume and tone knobs, so you can really dial in your pickups for the quick changing the way that you want it. Now that is dependent on the pickups being really good. And so let's go over this guitar a little bit just real quick. So this is the Firefly FFLP Classic, and so they have another line above that's the Elite. Has fancier binding. I don't know what else it has. I have not opened up the control cavities, so I don't know what kind of electronics we're looking for. I know on the Elite series they use full-size pots. But what I'll say right now is that I'm not having any trouble getting good audio taper out of the pots on this, regardless of what size they are. The other thing is, for a budget guitar, these pickups sound really good, like as good as aftermarket Seymour Duncans that I've bought. I'm really kind of particular about pickups, and I actually look for kind of a specific EQ curve. And funny enough, as a rock and metal guy, I actually like lower output, higher dynamic pickups. And this is something I started to get into as I listened to guys like John Schaefer and Joe Duplantier of Gojira talk about using the lower output pickups with higher gain amps, so that you have a lot of sonic information coming from the instrument itself, and you can let all the compression and clipping happen in the signal chain after the guitar. So one of the things that a lot of people, I think, don't realize is that pedals and cables and amps don't really add anything other than volume, but they don't really add anything to the guitar. Really what they do is take away. And so you want as much harmonic information as possible coming from the instrument itself. Signal, right, not noise. But you want as much of that harmonic information coming from the instrument itself, so that when it hits your pedals and your amp, that everything is being shaped correctly. And so kind of more vintagey style, lower output pickups tend to do better. Now, I still prefer humbuckers over single coils, in the sense that they are a little rounder and a little thicker, but there are some really, really great sounding single coils out there. P90s sound amazing, but they just, there's of course the 60 cycle hum problem, and then if you get them hum canceling, it changes the tone. There's a whole thing that goes on with that. And so sometimes vintage style humbuckers or just lower output humbuckers tend to do the job pretty well. Now, down the road, might I aftermarket these to something else? Maybe, I might, but it's not at all a critical thing, and it's not absolutely necessary right now. They are really, really nice sounding pickups, and they're clear and defined. They really, really highlight all my mistakes. It's great. Okay, so there's that. The fret ends are, there's nothing as sharp. They're maybe, not the nicest dressed, but they're good. They're really, really nicely polished. Really like mirror polished on these. Maybe not the highest mirror polish, but they were really nicely polished. The switch has a nice detent. The knobs are smooth but firm. The tuners are not sloppy, which is really nice. It's really nice on a budget guitar to not have sloppy tuners. So much time, right? You tune up or tune down, and then there's going to be a little space before it re-engages. I don't remember what the mechanical or engineering term for that is, but basically there's slop between the teeth on the gear, and so it goes one way and everything's butted up, and then it'll have a little bit before it re-engages going back the other way. It's a major deal on ratchets. Well, it's a major deal on tuners as well. And these are pretty good tuners. They're not by any means the highest quality or anything, but they're good. I have no complaints. This thing sounds great, and I have a terrible amp. All right, so I have an old PV Bandit. It's a PV Bandit 75, 12-inch speaker. It's, in order for me to get a usable tone out of it, I have to dial all of the bass out. I have to dial the presence, the treble, the mids, all the way up. I can do a little tweaking along there. On the clean channel, I can balance it out a little bit more and shape it a little bit more. On the lead channel, it's basically all presence and no bass, just to get something. Not, I will say this: I like a very bright tone. So that being the case, right, it is really, really, really hard for me to get a good bright tone out of this. This amp is just mud. And yet, with this guitar and kind of fighting with the amp and pushing it, to its limits on the treble and the mids, I can actually get it to sound okay. Not great, but okay. And that's really, really cool. So, this thing is, it's appropriately weighted. The color is perfect for me. The Firefly calls this lizard green. It's great. They have a few different green models. They have an emerald that looks really nice. They have another one that just has the green cap and then the kind of red mahogany on the back. I hate the color red, so I probably wouldn't go for that one unless I just got a smoking deal on it. Aesthetics are important, right? You can get great sounding guitars in a lot of different shapes and styles and all that. You might as well get one that you like looking at, right? Everybody is like, oh, it's not about how it looks, it's about how it plays and how it sounds. And I agree, it's about how it plays and sounds first. But there's a lot of great sounding guitars, and it sounds and plays great. So you might as well get one that you like looking at. So back to the Les Paul style thing. There have been 2 times in my life that I picked up a guitar And it was like, oh, this is it. This is home. And again, keep in mind, I am a rank amateur at this. I've been playing for a long time, but I have not been playing well for a long time. In fact, I've degraded because I actually haven't played electric in a couple of years, probably since 2017 or 2018, because I gave away my last functioning electric to a kid that was entering in music classes and needed a guitar. My other guitars are all stripped out for, parting out and hot rodding. Because I was like, well, I've got one, I can get the other one stripped out. And then money issues happened and all that. So now I have 3 guitars that cannot be played at the moment because they have no electronics in them. And so it was nice to finally get back to an electric. I mean, acoustic's nice, but again, when you're talking hard rock and metal, it's hard to kind of get that vibe on an acoustic. So, that being the case, one time, back when I was living in Michigan, my brother-in-law was playing in a band, and their lead guitar player had an Epiphone Les Paul. Let me play it once, and it was just like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, I mean, it was just like there's a feel to it, like just this is it. I know what this is, right? And that was 17 years ago at this point, 18 years ago at this point. It was a long time ago. And then, also, one time after I moved out here to Arizona, I went to a guitar center just messing around, and they actually had, I think it was the old ESP or LTD. I think it was they called it Truckster or Trucker model. It was the old James Hetfield model before they moved on to the Eclipse and all that kind of stuff, and again, I picked it up and I was like, oh man, this just feels right. The ESP makes really, really nice stuff. But it's out of my budget, right? I've always been more the sub $500 guy, and the most I've ever paid for a guitar is $500. So I'm very much kind of a sub 500 guy. I would rather get something that plays well for the money than go searching after the $10,000 thing that is just perfectly right. I am not good enough of a player to warrant that. So I really love this thing. I didn't weigh it, but I mean, it feels in the ballpark of just under 10 pounds, which is appropriate weight. The action came in nice and low. The neck was dead straight, so I actually had to give it a little bit of relief. Obviously, normal tuning and intonation, normal things. The strings feel like they're probably 9s. On a Gibson scale, with a hardtail, I tend to prefer playing 11s, but I tend to also drop down to D standard and drop C. So I kind of like playing 11s and even 12s. But the 9s feel fine on this. The 9s are a little faster, but yeah, normally I would play like 11s, but down tune. And so like right now I'm playing this in E just because it's easier, because it's set up for that. The strings are better for E and all that. So it is what it is, but I am really enjoying this thing. It's hard for me to put this thing down. I really love it. It was such a fantastic gift from my wife. I know it's not a lot of money, and she makes good money and all that, but I think she just knows how much that I miss playing the electric, and knew that I was not in a position to buy one myself, and she knew I was looking at these, so thanks, Elizabeth. I love you. I know you're not going to watch this video, but yeah, I am very, very pleased with this. So yeah, I have an actually large list of Les Paul copies. Some that I know I want, some that I would like to try. I'm also a huge fan of double cut Les Pauls, and they generally don't even get called Les Pauls anymore. They're just double cuts now. But I like the Epiphone DC whatever is a great looking guitar. Hamer made one back in the day, and Harley Benton has one in a Les Paul Junior style. Greco made some junior styles. A lot of people made the double cuts in a Les Paul Junior style, the single pickup, which is fine. I would prefer it to be set up just like a Les Paul. I really like that double cut, but I don't want to pay Gibson money. And so having options like Epiphone and having options like even old vintage Hamers and even the Harley Bentons, those are pretty cool too. So yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say. This was just kind of a fun vlog and a review. I mean, this thing it's good. I like it. Definitely worth the money. And again, like the highest end other type of Les Paul I've played is probably that old Epiphone. I think it was an Epiphone Studio. But I mean, that still wasn't more than like a $600 or $700 guitar, I think. Well, the ESP might have been a $700 guitar too. But I mean, comparing it to those, yeah, the Firefly tends to use the 60s slimmer neck, and I do kind of prefer the chunkier 50s, but that's neither here nor there. It's perfectly playable. The neck is lacquered, so I did take some quadruple aught steel wool to it just to kind of knock some of the shine down and give me a little bit more slideability on it so it doesn't stick as much. Probably need to do a little bit more with that, but I don't want to overdo it. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Good journey.